Seeking blessings of Prabhu and all of you assembled here today to be able to use this good 55 minutes in glorification of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, amazing Vaishnava in our line of gurus. And his life is, there's so many things to say that 55 minutes definitely are not enough. And so his pranam mantra, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's pranam mantra is Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pisthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Vishubhanavi Devi Darita Prabhavadai Krishna Sambandha Vikyana Daine Prabhavave Namaha. Madhujala Premada Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namaste Namaste Gaura Vani Shri Murte Dinatarine Rupaninga Virudha Vase Dhanta Dhanda Harine. So the meaning is, I offer my respectful obeisances unto His divine grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Vishnuhanavi, Devi, Darita, Dasa, another name of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur. Let me read. Sri Vishnuhanavi, Devi, Darita, Dasa, who is favored by Srimati Radharani and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of signs of Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who deliver devotional service which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of the revelation of Sri Rupa Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya, You are the deliverer of fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of devotional service enunciated by Srila Bhakti. So these are the pranam mantras for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sri Thakur, and each of them has very important meaning and actually a lot of stories behind his pranam mantra, like his whole demeanor in propagating Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Okay, so he took birth in appeared. So whenever a holy person comes in this world, they are not taking birth as a conditioned soul would. They are not here to what to say, deal with their karma as some conditioned souls are. I am, but he has appeared on February 6, 1874. So that's like 150 years ago, roughly. And around 3:30 in the afternoon. And his name was Bimala Prasad Das. And then later, of course, his name was Bhakti Thakur, and he appeared in Purushottam Kshetra, which is Jagannath Puri in Odisha. Okay, so that's the appearance day. So February 6th, and now I don't know how it. So today is his disappearance day. So that makes sense. I was thinking, how is that appearance day? Yeah. So we will get his disappearing pastime as well. So appearance and disappearance. So first of all, his parents, the father was, anybody know? Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Do you know anything about Bhakti Vinod Thakur? Yes, so you want to share something?
Yes, he was, I think, as I believe, he was a magistrate, and then he is the one who wrote a lot of the transcendental literature and in Bengali. And then he actually prayed, I think, to the Lord to give him a son who would actually take his work forward, and that's much.
Yes, Ray of Vishnu. Yes, wonderful. Prabhu, you want to share anything? Anything from? Okay. So yes, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So we see on our altar, so right at the lotus feet of Shri Gauritai, on this side is Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur. The two were sitting on the Sinhasan, small. And then we have pictures. We have Srila Prabhupada, then Bhakti coming from the left to right. Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, Gauri Pradhavati, and then Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Right there, from here, second and from there, fourth. So very powerful acharya, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And if, for me personally, the inspiration is like if we are working outside the material world and we have families to deal with, and, is that a hindrance in anywhere coming close to, Krishna? And that's not. And the example is Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He was magistrate, like a judge in the whole of Odisha at that time, and earlier he was in Kolkata, Bengal, and then he moved to Jagannath Puri. The king had called him to take over the temples, overseeing, and a lot of there were some turmoils in Odisha, and because of which he had to come there. So, and yeah, he has 12, 10. 11, somewhere in between. So somewhere in that range, we have to remember that. But 10, 11, or 12, we're going to take a pick. Children, and he, as you said, a little bit of more background to the whole thing is that when Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, God is on the altar. He is Krishna himself in form of Radharani, and there are a lot of pastimes. Understanding about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like doing a PhD, in Vaishnava literature. Understanding his personality, understanding why he appeared, his mood, and his everything is just. It just takes somebody very pure to explain to us, what he was trying to do when he came. But in a sense, he is Krishna himself coming as a devotee to show how to live Bhagavad Gita. So if Bhagavad Gita is 101, and then, this is the PhD level to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared from this world, he has given the responsibility of promoting Lord Krishna's like Krishna consciousness to his six Goswamis. They are also on the other small picture there. Um, and then there are further acharyas and acharyas, like 2-3 generations of acharyas who actually, after on the instruction of the six Goswamis, they carried forward the movement, and they found out the pastimes of Lord Krishna, Radharani in Vrindavan, wrote so many literatures. Actually, just 2 weeks ago, I mean maybe 3 weeks ago, I was in India in Vrindavan, and we went to the place called Tirtadamba, and that's where Srila Rupa Goswami would write the pastimes. Very intimate pastimes of Shri Radharani and Krishna. And if these acharyas had not revealed to us, these intimate pastimes, there's no way for us to know about those pastimes. So their purity is such that they can see the pastimes in their heart, and Krishna has given them that the mercy, and they have received that mercy that Krishna has given. And then after 2-3 generations of acharyas, Gaudiya Vaishnavism or Krishna consciousness was on a decline. So much so that people were rampantly saying that just follow anything. Maybe this is the way to reach God, or maybe God does not exist, and break all relative principles. Then that's also okay. Still, we can just make sense of. Still, we are spiritual, and there were all kind of hodgepodge ideas about what is spirituality, what is Gaudiya Vaishnavism, who's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what was his Sankirtan movement, how to serve Krishna, the chanting, and so many concepts that we know right now, reading from Prabhupada's books, so super clear to us. So at that time that it wasn't that clear. And then that's the era when Thakur was had appeared. And of course, India was also under British control at that time, so things were very challenging from all fronts, from pseudo spiritualism, and then politically, so many operations were going on, and Britishers, of course, they knew that if we break the strong spiritual fundamentals that people are having in their heart, that's the way to win them. So they started infiltrating India with so many foreign things and so many foreign habits in order to break those that spiritual social culture that was present, and that's how they ruled for a long time. And of course, Bhakti Thakur was thinking, where is this going? This is not the real spiritual understanding of things, and there's so much of wrong ideas floating around. And that's the time, in a deep prayer, he prayed to God, he prayed to Krishna, he prayed to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to please send one ray, just one ray. I myself alone, I cannot do this. Please send a ray. I don't need a whole sun. I just need one ray of your mercy to be able to do important work in this world. And Bhakti Thakur had already envisioned so many things. One thing he envisioned was that chanting the holy name is going to be going all over the world, not just India. So sitting in his room, if you ever get a chance to go to Mayapur and Navadvip area, his room is very small and very simple living. There's a veranda in front of it. So on the first floor of in India, that's the second floor. No, here is the second floor. In India, that's the first floor. Ground floor is the first floor. There's a small veranda, and there he was sitting and thinking of what it was envisioning this whole movement to be spread all over the world. And then he also envisioned another thing, that one Adbhut Mandir will come. He was looking in a particular direction. That one Adbhut Mandir, big Mandir will come where the whole this as a headquarters of this holy name, propagation of the holy name. And that is the place where the current ISKCON Mayapur temple is getting built, and this beautiful, the cranes, the height, it's like 14 floors or something, like where they are going to give the description of all the canopy systems. Each floor will be one canopy system. That's what I've heard. And just to see its construction, I by mercy of the deities and all the devotees, I've been visiting Mayapur almost every year except the COVID time, like last year's. So seeing the construction of that place, going up and up and up, it's just so much joy and pride in the heart just to see, his vision getting manifested. And a little bit more about the Thakur Thakur, something personally I really take inspiration from is his one little place in his house where he used to do his bhajan. So that space is probably just very small, 3 feet by 3 feet or 4 feet or something like that. That's small. And I'm not sure, but I've heard that the walls are quite thick, 1 feet thick, something to that extent. They're so thick, and when you close the door, it's pretty dark. So that's the place we would go and sit and do his bhajan, his chanting and his sadhana. And right outside the house is a railroad, and it stops very near to his. After crossing his house, it stops after say a couple of feet. And that railroad was constructed so that Bhakti Thakur does not have to spend time on the road and waste his time to reach the court. So in order to get him to the court early, Britishers have built that railroad, railway lines just for him, and the railway system will come and take him to the court. And Bhakti Thakur's life is like, you can look at his schedule, every minute to minute he would count. He will get up early, do his chanting, and then so he will get up very early and do all his sadhana, and then will take a power nap for like 10 minutes, and then get ready and go to court. And whatever the case is, people will take for so many hours or the whole day. He will just wind them up by 2 o'clock or something, come back home, and then he has. And in the evening, he said it's written that he will just go back and forth into his veranda, just trying to find the arguments against all these pseudo religion and spirituality that was floating around, and what kind of wrong conceptions were going on at that time. So he would just go back and forth, arguing, giving logics and this and that. So that's the father, that's Bhakti Thakur. And this, so many things can be said about Bhakti Thakur. I encourage you to read these inspiring heroes, spiritual heroes, I would say, of our current era. And then when he prayed like that, oh Lord, please send me a ray. And then hence this book called Ray of Vishnu, and that's Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. So he appeared with a medical cord like strung around his body like a Brahman thread. So just from his birth itself, it was evident that this is that Ray of Vishnu. This is that special soul that Lord has sent for as an answer to Srila Bhakti Thakur's prayers. So now Bhakti Saraswati Thakur's life from the very young age, his when he was 2 years of age, there was this very, in India, mango season is amazing, and especially in Bengal, there are so many varieties of mangoes, and Bhakti Thakur had, brought mangoes at home, and Bhakti Saraswati Thakur at that time, Prasad was very hungry, so he said, I want to have mango, and he quickly tried to take it. And then his father said, no, we have not offered it to the Lord. So then that's the time he said, oh, I have made an offense. I have tried to eat something which is being not offered to the Lord. So at age 2, he took a vow that he would never eat mangoes rest of his life because he is an offender of the Lord. And he said that vow throughout his life. And even once what had happened when he was about 60 years old, a disciple got a mango for him, and then he said, no, I'm an offender, I am not going to accept mangoes. And he kept his vows as an 18-year-old till the rest of his life, that his vows were, he had that strength to keep up with his vows. And then and from the very beginning, he was hearing his father's preaching. As I said, his father was a great, not only a magistrate, but spiritual preacher, and he anytime Srila Bhakti Thakur will get, either he was writing books or he was preaching or he was crafting his logic answers or arguments he gave to these people. So and there were many gatherings in his house where he called people, and there will be discourses on Krishna consciousness. So his father observed that Bimal Prasad would sit very attentively and hear very, very like a natural attraction to hear about the pastimes of the Lord. So by age 7, he had memorized entire Bhagavad Gita. So that's how his memory was actually. He was said that if he reads something once, that's it. He would memorize all the concepts that he has learned. And he was called encyclopedia of anything actually. Of course, especially in all the Vedic literature and scriptures he has memorized. And Srila Bhakti Thakur also had started publishing and printing. So and Bhakti Thakur, Bimal Prasad has grown up learning how to publish and print and edit. So he would be the editor of his father's books and go through all his father has written. And so he was from a very young age. So see the combination of a very qualified father and a very qualified child, and of course the mother is also there and supporting everything. Though probably her name is doesn't appear so much. But let me see what's Bhagavati Devi. Bhagavati Devi, yeah. So from the very young age, he was involved in all this. He was so scholarly. His English is such that when he will speak, people have to hold dictionaries to figure out what is the meaning of this word that he has used. And this is an Indian person who has, in the British era, even the Britishers were shocked by his English and probably had to had tough time, on understanding his English. So that's how scholarly he was. So at age 11, he actually toured various places of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with his father. So his father was, again, very actively engaged in everything, and hence he was also, just besides his father, he would go around and hear about all the pastimes of Krishna. One pastime I forgot to mention that when Bimal Prasad was born, he was 6 months old. 6 months old. Then the Jagannath cart, the Jagannath Rath Yatra was passing through. So Bhakti Thakur used to live on that road, that's the land road in Orissa, the road that goes from Jagannath Mandir all the way to Buddhicha Temple. I forgot the name, land road, I think. So that road, there itself is house was Bhakti Thakur's house. And it is said that Jagannath's cart, I mean, there are so many pastimes of Jagannath's cart in Jagannath Puris that if Jagannath wants to move the cart, only then it moves, and if he wants to stop the cart, nobody can move it. So they even have tried getting horses to move the cart, but it would just not move. So it's like, Jagannath is sitting on the cart. So there's no way. If he doesn't want to move, there's no way who can move him. And if Jagannath wants to move, they have tried stopping the cart with elephants and other external forces. So the cart will not stop. So Jagannath wants to move. So when he was 6 months old and they were standing outside to take darshan of Lord Jagannath's cart, the cart stopped right in front of their house and nobody can move it this way or that way. And it just stood there. And then, well, since Bhakti Thakur, being a spiritual person who he was, and also he has, he was, this magistrate of the Odisha. So they said, okay, you want to come and take darshan in the up close. And when the Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur at that time, Prasad, he also got into the car. And the moment he saw Jagannath, he was like going and hugging Jagannath. And Jagannath, in the reciprocation, gave a flower garland. So flower garland fell from him. And that was again another confirmation that he was that very Vishnu whom Bhakti Thakur prayed for. So yes, so that's another pastime, and so many other pastimes, establishing how special he was from the very beginning. And so when again his early ages, Srila Saraswati Thakur's early ages during his education, he had enrolled in school, but he used to get a little chastised from the teacher because he would not be paying attention. Instead, Devi Prasad used to multitask. Like in the class, he would be having reading scriptures. So at that time, he was probably reading Pratna. Pratna is a book written by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, one of the acharyas. And not only writing, but he would do some translation or some kind of a commentary on that. So then his teacher would say, well, you're not paying attention. And say, okay, no problem, you want to test my attention, just ask me any question. So the teacher will ask question to him from the subject that teacher was teaching, and he will answer it. And then I say, okay, now can I go back and do my other reading? So within the classroom, he would use his time to read the scriptures and use every minute of his life absorbed in scriptures and other, such in worship, going around, doing parikrama yatras. So his whole life was just busy with all of that. Okay, so that's the pastime of when he was growing up, and then he became a little older, and then when he was also around seventh grade, Srila Bhakti Thakur actually gave him the mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, and also gave Nrsimha mantra. And Nrsimha mantra was, along with that, he gave him a deity to worship. So since 7 onwards, Kurma deity. So he has been regularly engaged in chanting of his Nrsimha mantra and Maha mantra and worship of the Kurma deity since he was, 7th grade onwards, very consistently. And then after he grew a little older, his father said, well, though Srila Bhakti Thakur himself was qualified to give initiation, and kind of he did it already by giving the mantra, but a formal initiation is so very important in life of any soul. And as an example, to set an example, it was important that Devi Prasad should take initiation. So Bhakti Thakur said that it's not a good idea that a father gives initiation to a son. Better you seek out another Vaishnava, and maybe God Kishore Das Babaji is a qualified Vaishnava to give initiation. So, and here is such a beautiful lesson about a guru and disciple. Is very, very deep message about who can be a guru and who can be a disciple. So God Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, I was trying to look at the picture and see that's something. There are some different pictures I've seen, so I was trying to see if that's the picture. But he was also, he was always absorbed in chanting of the holy name, but in a much like a Buddha manner or spiritual madman kind of a manner. He didn't care about anything of his life, and from external perspective, he was illiterate. And on the other hand, Bhakti Saraswati Thakur is this scholar, when he was so young, he has memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita, he was writing commentaries, his English is so high, like on a totally opposite spectrum of how Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji was. So on this lesson of his so on the inspiration of his father, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur approached Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj for seeking initiation. And he humbly said, I'm this fallen soul, please accept me as a disciple. So Gaurkishore Babaji Maharaj said to him the same thing. Well, I do not even know how to write my own name. And you are this big scholar. I don't think I can give you initiation. It doesn't match. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur gave an amazing answer. He said, if my scholarship is a hindrance to take shelter from you, become your disciple, shame on me. I reject my scholarship, I reject everything that is becoming a hindrance in taking initiation from you. I humbly beg and request that please accept me as a disciple. So then Gaurkishore Das already said, well, I'm not sure. I have to check with Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he said, okay, then when can I come back? So Gaurkishore Das Babaji said, well, come back next week. So time passed and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur again came next week and asked that, did you get an answer? Like, did you get an answer from Gaura is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to, have accepted me as a disciple? Then Gaurkishore Babaji said, well, I forgot to ask. So come next week. It's okay. Then again, Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur waited and he came next week. And again, the same kind of conversation. He said, oh, I again forgot this time. So by that time, Abdullah Prasad was sure that, he was just, trying to deny, giving initiation and not accepting him, things like that. So he said that Abdullah Prasad at that time, he said that I will right now drown my life, that drown here in this river and not exist anymore because without the Guru, there is absolutely no way I can reach Krishna Guru's feet. I have to, unless you don't accept me, there's no point of my life. So when Gaurkishore Das Babaji saw that, and then when Vimal Prasad says something, he will do it. We saw that already seen from his brother of not eating mango. So he says something, he's going to do it. So that's the time Gaurkishore Das Babaji relented and accepted him as his disciple. So it's there are so many factors people think and can consider and try to match, who's somebody's guru. But it's very clear that Krishna reveals Guru to a soul, and then Guru reveals Krishna to that soul. So it's not that somebody can choose on any external level whether this person can be my Guru or that person can be my Guru. And similarly, from the Guru side, there's no external consideration to accept anybody as a disciple. It's really Krishna inspiring to say a yes or a no or whatever other circumstances are. So it's an amazing that how a highly scholarly person is at the lotus feet of somebody who externally would not even write, could write even a single letter. So the deep devotion of Gaurkishore Das Babaji was very evident. So much so that when Bhakti Thakur was trying to, so Srila Bhakti Thakur was trying to find the places of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Bengal. And then, but prior to that, Goswamis were given the task to find the places, the lost places of Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur found the place of, actually even the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was a whole lot of confusion because there's Ganges that flows through that Navadvip area, and hence there are 9 dweeps or 9 islands because of the tributaries of Ganges. And then, because of the change of the course of the river, the places were little, they had gone under the water or on the other side, or it was very, very confusing to even establish the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So many people thought it's that side and this side. So it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur who requested, God Yashodas Babaji was actually earlier in Vrindavan, and requested him to come to Navadvip to help him establish that place. And the moment God Yashodas Babaji was at that spot, he jumped in ecstasy, confirming that yes, that is the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur would, had such a high regard for God Yashodas Babaji that just by saying yes and neglecting all other, other indications that just local people were saying, he fully believed and had faith in God Yashodas Babaji's deep devotion and connection with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to reveal that to us. So so after God Yashodas Babaji's Maharaj initiation, and that's when he received the name Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur. That was the time now there was an inspiration to start this preaching mission, go for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur to go out and start preaching on the instruction of his father. They had main agendas of distributing books, doing Harinam, and just distributing, through lectures, going to different conferences, and kind of defeating all these pseudo ideas or wrong ideas about Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So, but before Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur embarked this mission of going outside and really facing, or sharing this with others, he had another vrata. His vrata was for 10 years. He chanted how many? Like
192 rounds.
192 rounds. 192 rounds every day. So much so that he had one day, he had some kutir or hut where he used to sit and chant. And if it rained there, it's not that he will leave that place. He will hold an umbrella and chant, sit and chant on that place. So this kind of chanting and extended chanting had been observed only in Srila Haridas Thakur, who is the Acharya of the Guru name, and so many other such Vaishnavas like the Goswamis themselves have done that. So it's very clear of his stature, who he is, to be able to do that. So many rounds of chanting every day, practically a whole day of chanting. And that's the time after he finished his his jata, his Naam Bhajan. So that started in 1905 at age 31. That's the time he says chanting of 3 lakhs name, 192 rounds per day. And he determined to chant 3 lakhs names daily. And 9 years is the exact time, not 10 years. 9 years to be 1 billion names. So he resided in a grass hut, not any cemented hut, at Yoga Peak. Yoga Peak is a place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took birth. So he stayed there for 4 years, and then another little place, cottage near Yoga Peak at Chandrasekhar Acharya's house, near his house, another place. So he was like 2-3 places he moved around. to chant his vrata for 9 years. And so, looking at this, something very interesting is said about him, that seeing his renunciation, Kishodas Baba said that I observe that the renunciation of Shri Rupa Raghunath is manifested in him. So that's why in his pranam mantra, there is this reference to Shri Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Goswami's mantra says that. So his Gurudev mentioned that about him, that their mercy, Rupa Raghunath's mercy, and their renunciation is manifested in him. Okay, then further about his life. Yeah, so he brought very contemporary changes to the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what was at that time an understanding. So there are a couple of things. One is about temples. Earlier it was thought that the temples should be small and simple, and even the sannyasis should be very simple, just wear simple clothes and go away, go around and do the chanting and other things. But he sensed that this is era of Britishers, and if we have to get attention of people and get attention of such of anybody in British officials and other places, other things, he needs to look like them. So why we don't do as women do something to that effect. So he was the one who could wear or would wear and have worn like suits, very, very costly suits and jackets and hats and boots, and not just all the time be in his renounced clothes. And then in terms of the temple, he said, well, if we take say one fruit, in order to offer it to Krishna, we should be giving the whole basket. He's the king, he's the Lord, and so the temple should not be small. The temple should be very big, and so it should be like a palace. The temple should be like that. So when under his direction, the temples that were built were big and marbled, use of marble everywhere. So much so when somebody will come in, they'll say, "Oh, is this a temple or a palace?" And his consciousness was that the best of the best should be offered to Krishna, and one can lead a very simple life for themselves. But when it means that we have to offer something to the Lord, it has to be very opulent. And then earlier at that time, there people used to just travel by foot or bullock carts or things like that. But he didn't hesitate to be in a motor car and a very beautiful, like not beautiful, but opulent, high class motor car to bring attention to the devotee of the Lord, like in the sense that if Lord is he's he's the owner, he's the creator, he's the maintainer of everything, then the devotee who is preaching his name, in order to bring attention to the Lord, they need to get attention to themselves and then pass on that attention to the Lord. Basically, that's what his thing was. Whatever is there in the world, use that in service of the Lord, not just reject them. So, of course, that needs a very fixed spiritual intellect, and the mood and the intent has to be super clear and very devoted to the Lord only, then it works. Otherwise, it's very easy to get affected by all the obvious things that one can see around. So he started a lot of work with the publishing. So after his brother for chanting, he felt, okay, now is the time. So he used to go around like this, dressed up, and in this big cars, and started building the temples. And then he had this inspiration from his father that there should be preaching going on all over the world, not just this little place in Navadvip and Bengal or just in Vrindavan. It should be going on all over the place. So he did start a lot of outreach within India itself, and there was an inspiration also to send some two sannyasis to London, and they went, but things didn't work out that well. And he also used to take yatras to Vrindavan, along with his followers. They would go to Vrindavan, spend some time. So in Radhakund, he was giving a long lecture once, and it was really long, like probably a lot of hours in a day, maybe the whole day. So a lot of his followers and other people came, they heard, they left, but Srila Prabhupada was the one sitting in the front taking notes of everything he was saying with his back straight and just totally absorbed and fully concentrated, so that he didn't even think of leaving, and he just sat there hearing. And by the time evening came, most of people have left, only few were remaining. So that time, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur blessed Srila Prabhupada that the way you are hearing will reflect when you speak. When you speak, the whole world will hear you. That's the blessing he gave to Srila Prabhupada because of his intense, Srila Prabhupada's intense desire, his own devotion, of course, the whole thing. So many things we can talk about Srila Prabhupada as well, and what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's mission was again that the relationship between spiritual master and disciple is so powerful. It's like really a current flowing, through the parampara to the one who can receive it. And also Srila Prabhupada, as growing up in his house, has also seen so many sannyasis coming. He has served so many, and he was. I'm just now referring to the meeting of Srila Prabhupada. He was not interested, and his friend said, "Well, there's another Swami here giving a lecture." He said, "I had seen it. I've already enough." He said, "No, this was a special one," and Srila Prabhupada had that missionary, I want to say, freedom fighting movement, mission, inspiration at that time. And Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur has said, well, nothing to wait for propagating Krishna consciousness. That is super important. And when he got convinced, so that's how Srila Prabhupada started following. And and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur gave the inspiration of going to West to so many people, not just Srila Prabhupada actually, so many inspired. But it is, I think, Srila Prabhupada who took that instruction to his heart and gave 200% of his effort and his life to fulfill that mission of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. So there's so many recordings of Srila Prabhupada on this appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. He had almost cried that it's my Guru Maharaj's will that I'm trying to fulfill here, and he would urge his disciples, please help me in fulfilling the mission of my Guru Maharaj. And so it's whoever one may be, but in front of one spiritual master, such a humble surrender and total submission and taking the instruction to one's heart is really the key to bring that purity of the Lord, to this session to everyone. Now probably I'll just go over the last disappearance pastime of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. This Way of Vishnu is a wonderful small booklet, I would say, and where his whole life is shared. So this is in October, which is, again, I don't know how October becomes December now. Let's see. So in October, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur went to Jagannath Puri, and there he exhibited his pastime of illness for some time. At Jagat Parvat, this is in Jagannath Puri, and this Jagat Parvat is considered to be not different than Govardhan Hill. Then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur observed Madhvacharya's appearance day celebration and chanted verses specified for such occasions. And he read those verses from the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. So it was very, a lot of his practices and his preachings were from the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. And he also held a festival for his spiritual master, Srila Vishnudas Babaji. And while he was passing his days in Puri, he was often heard to utter the phrases from the verses of Srila Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. And the verse is Pratyasam me tuam kuru govardhana purna. So he was staying near Jagat Parvat and reading from Srila Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami's writing. And here the meaning of this one Sanskrit line is, O Govardhan, please fulfill my desire. Then it says, Nijani Kata Nivasam Dehi Govardhan Tvam. O Govardhana, please give me a dwelling place on the banks of pond near you. He also said pointedly, you all take to sincere Hari Bhajan. So we must be talking to others. There are not, and then he said, there are not many more days for him. Like he started speaking like that, there are not many more days for me. He gave lectures in Puri for about a month and a half. And then on December 6th, he left Puri for Calcutta. At the police station, he was paid respects by many distinguished persons, especially due to their appreciation of his monumental activities of preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message in India as well as abroad. There was a stop in Cuttack, Howrah station. He reached and Gauriya people came and received him. And he spoke of his Guru's visions, saying, it's my Gurudev who is graciously present in all his different forms. If he is not graciously present in all these forms, who would then preserve me? So he started talking about, some of course he's in certain mood here, and saying that he's the one who only protects me. And just again some prayers from Raghunath Das Goswami and Manashiksha of Raghunath Das Goswami. And then he's saying, and then we started saying, well, I am an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety and trouble. I have never hesitated to perform sinful activities for my own enjoyment. The material desires in my heart are unlimited. I am ruined by laziness and sleep. And then now in old age, deprived of all means of success, hunger and poor. So this is the prayer of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he was reading. Bhaktivinoda Thakur submits his tale of grief at the feet of Supreme Lord. So he was reciting those, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also reciting those prayers that he is at the, at his old age, and this is the time for his reading, this place. And just trying to find that place where he said. So prayers and expression of saying like a final any kind of apologies that he wanted to make, which of course reflects his humility, and any kind of message he wants to give, that was all he was sharing that in his lectures and reading all the prayers of the previous acharyas. So on the morning of December 31, 1936, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur requested Sridhar Maharaj to sing Rupa Manjari by Srila Narottama Das Thakur. And in the forenoon, he requested the editor of Gauriya magazine to see that some magazine would be compiled and published. And his last two statements were, love and rupture both should have the same end in view. Thakur Narottama lived on the principles of Rupa Raghunath. It's good to follow that path. Please accept my blessings to you all, present and absent. Please bear in mind our sole duty and religion is to spread and propagate service to the Lord and his devotees. And after saying all of this, around 5:30 a.m. on Thursday, January 1st, 1937, he entered the pastimes of Supreme Lord, having firmly established the foundation of a spiritual movement which would be carried around the world by his pure servant, His Divine Grace, Siddhanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of International Society of Krishna. Thank you. So, anything you want to share? Yeah. One prayer probably we can, offer to him is to bless us to be able to receive all the sacrifices and the message and the determination and the fighting for, fighting against Maya. May that, enter our heart, even one drop of it or one tiniest ray of, the healing ray of Vishnu. Thank you all very much for your attention, and please forgive me if I said something wrong or in a wrong way. If I said anything. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur.
Jai. Jai.